Hello universe, welcome to my channel. My name is Alex. Today's session is going to be a Yin Yoga session because some of you have requested that. So here it is. I really like to put a blanket on top of my mat or just stay on a regular mat, you know, that soft mat you usually have on the floor if you have one. Because we're not really going to sweat or to stay on our feet. It's just relaxed poses, passive poses, and also bring out as many props as you can find in your home because we always want to support our body in Yin Yoga. So if you have a bolster, definitely take that out, but you can also use some blankets that you roll into a bolster, regular pillows. You can always use more than one. And blocks could be a great idea too if you want something for your forehead for some poses. Now we're gonna start in a seated position to ground ourselves first. So place your hands on top of your knees. Create some length in your spine. And then let's close your eyes. And starting to connect to that inner place. So becoming a bit more aware of your body. Noticing the sits bones rooted down onto the mat. The weight of your hands on your knees. And then just generally starting to notice how you're feeling. Is there a sense of heaviness or lightness in the body? A sense of movement or stillness? And it could be both as well. And from here, shifting your attention towards your breath. Noticing how the inhales expands the body and the exhales gives you the permission to relax somewhat more. Now we're going to start to deepen the breath. So no need for the Ujjayi breath here, but see if you can fill up your belly as you inhale and exhaling slowly. So there is a little bit more control of the breath. It's starting to slow down and becoming deeper. And we want to keep this kind of breath throughout the practice. So it's not a forced breath. You don't really want to squeeze your belly. And just using a bit more of your lungs capacity. Gently blinking your eyes open. And we're gonna enter our first pose for today. So, turning to the long side of the mat, starting with caterpillar, and you might want to put a block or your rolled blanket underneath your knees. You're gonna start with bent legs. From here, lengthen your spine for a moment and see if you can fold over your legs. So bend your knees as much as you need to. Then from here, you can walk your feet forward or your pelvis back, maybe both. Relax your legs and your feet completely. And what's important is to keep that connection between belly and thighs. So you will notice when you arrive to your pose, once that connection starts to dissolve, when your belly wants to start to lift off of the thighs and you feel tension behind your legs. So it's okay if your feet will falls a little bit to the outside. You don't want to grab onto your feet with your hands, but rather maybe turning the hands up towards the ceiling. And then from here, gently starting to relax the head. And if it's too much, you can also put something between the legs and your forehead, perhaps a block if you had one. Keep that steady breath. Avoid moving around too much in these poses. So our focus here is to let go. So you might want to mentally scan the body for any tension, anything you might be holding on to. Could be in your face, in your shoulders, or anywhere else in the body. Sometimes we hold on to the breath. I've always felt like Yin Yoga is a practice of surrender. It looks really easy from the outside since it's all just passive poses. But for the person who's practicing Yin Yoga, it's almost one of the hardest types of yoga. It really puts you in connection with yourself, with your feelings. So that body scanning I mentioned before, it's something you can repeat throughout the practice, even more than once in the poses if you want to. Just a few more breaths here. And then to get out of the pose, you want to move really slowly, just as when you get into the pose. You can start by gently lifting the gaze, your head. Still relaxed in your legs and your feet. Use your hands to gently push yourself up again. Really slowly. You might want to help your legs to bend a bit more, just so you can remove your eventual block or blanket. From here, we're going to enter child's pose. So you can take your feet to one side, so you can come up onto your knees, big toes together. But in this variation, you can widen your knees as much as you want to. And once more, maybe taking your bolster, your blanket in front of you. This is optional. And you can fold on top of that, so you have a little bit more support for your chest. Maybe giving your bolster a hug and placing one cheek onto the bolster. So the wider you distance your knees, the more intense it will be for your inner thighs. Keep relaxing in the pose. Then maybe after a moment, you might want to turn your head to the other side. And then lifting your head back to center. Once more, using your hands to slowly, slowly come up to a seated position. Remove your bolster and walk your knees closer to each other again. Now from here, enter kind of a tabletop position, but we want to come down onto our forearms. Hands together, so elbows underneath your shoulders. And then walking your knees back slightly as you lift your hands up towards the ceiling, or maybe all the way back towards your back. So it's okay to let the forehead rest on the mat or on top of a block or something else. And let your shoulders open. Let your chest open. Your knees are more or less underneath your hips. Now if you don't feel that much in this pose, if you want something more, you can start to push the fingertips of one hand into the fingertips of the other hand, creating some space between your palms, almost like you're holding onto a sphere. This will make your arms rotate externally. And you should feel something more in your shoulders. Maybe even something in your upper back. Remember to keep a fluid breath and use the breath to create space. So inhaling to all those places where you feel tension. And exhale to let go and release some of the tension. Start to bring your hands together if you create a distance there. Lower your hands as you lift your gaze, entering Swan Pose from here. So shift the weight forward as you bring the palm of your hands down. And gently walk your knees back until you can lower your hips down onto the floor. Now here you have a few options. If this is comfortable for you, you could stay here with your elbows underneath your shoulders, but you can also bring that bolster underneath the top of your chest, underneath your shoulders. This way you can also relax your shoulders a bit more. Keep your arms bent and your head is pretty much lifted, so avoid dropping it down. If you want some support for your forehead, something you could do is to place your elbows down, take your hands together, and create kind of a shelf for your forehead. Relax your glutes and your legs. Notice how the chest, the torso expands with every inhale and in every direction. Expanding your front ribs, the back of your ribs and the sides. So this could be a place for you to stay. For those of you who want something more, who's got the hands onto the mat, can turn the hands outwards somewhat and also shifting them a bit more to the outside and then pressing them down as you start to lift the elbows up. So maybe you won't extend your arms completely, or maybe you will. So just a few breaths here. And then lowering your elbows back down. Gently Starting to remove the bolster if you have it underneath you. From here you can, for a moment, create like a pillow with your hands, broadening your elbows, placing your forehead onto your hands or even one cheek. Relax your whole body. And from here, we're gonna take our hands beside the body. Gently push yourself back. Tabletop. And we're gonna enter Pigeon Pose, or Swan Pose in Yin Yoga. So bring the right knee behind the hand, maybe even a little bit more to the right, as you shift the left foot to the left. So make sure that the top of the foot is down. We want to avoid flexing the foot unless the shin is parallel to the short edge of the mat, which it's usually not in Yin Yoga. Then you can walk the left leg back, the hips back. Relax the top of the foot to the mat. It doesn't matter if the hips reaches the ground or not. You're also welcome to put something underneath your right hip, the glute here, so your bolster or anything else. Maybe shifting your hips gently and consciously from side to side. See where you find that spot with a little bit more tension. So in Yin Yoga, alignment isn't as important, but we want to move really cautiously and gently and calmly, feeling into the body. Then choose where you want to stay. Maybe taking an inhale as you open up the chest, looking up gently, and exhale. You might want to come down either onto your forearms or creating that pillow with your hands again. Using a bolster and hug it is also an option. Or I like to create that shelf with my hands just as we did in the Sphinx pose. Find whatever floats your boat. Stay present with everything that's happening on the inside. So we want to find that place where we do feel something in the pose, but it's not too much. It doesn't make us move out of the pose, but we can stay here for a few minutes. Directing your inhales to the places where you feel the tension. Exhaling to surrender to discomfort. Of course, as long as it's not a sharp pain in the knee or any bone to bone feeling you might have. So as yoga practitioners, we usually hear a lot about Pigeon Pose. It's one of those poses which we both hate and love at the same time. Of course, it's a bit different for everyone, but a lot of people tend to store emotions in the area of their hips, creating tensions, tightness. So then when we go to release that, like in these poses, things start to come up to the surface again. So let any emotions or thoughts come and go. Let's do 2 more breaths here. And then starting to lift your head, placing your hands down to the mat as you can point or tuck the left toes and shift your hips forward. And really gently move the right leg back. And we're gonna enter downward facing dog for a moment. Just to create a little bit of movement in between the poses, in between the sides. So maybe you want to walk the dog. Maybe you even want to lift the right leg up, bend it, so the heel to the glute, opening up the hip, or maybe creating some circles here with the knee. And changing direction. Then place the right foot down again. And release the knees onto the mat. Bringing the left knee forward, the foot to the right. Remember to keep the top of the foot down. And walk the right leg and the hips back. So to advance the pose, you keep the foot wherever it is and bring the knee and the hips further back. To remember finding that spot where you do feel something, you have something to work with, but it's not too intense. And we're gonna start shifting the hips a little bit side to side. Of course, you can place something underneath the left hip if you want a little bit more of support there. And maybe this side is completely different than the other side. Honor your body, honor the differences, and give it what it needs. So once you find that spot of tension, of tightness, stay there. Let's open up for a moment. And with an exhale, you can lower yourself down. So choose your variation here with your arms. If you want, you can use the bolster. Maybe creating that shelf with your hands. And softening into the pose. So we don't have to go our deepest into the poses right away. It could become too intense that way. So moving slowly as we enter the poses. We can always deepen after a few breaths, giving the body some time to adjust and also to create more space. Remember to keep a fluid breath. And bring your mind back to the present moment whenever you notice that it drifts away. So there's no need to push thoughts and emotions away or resist them. See if there's a way for you to welcome them, accept whatever comes by, letting it come and go. It's also okay if you don't notice that much in the poses. It's all valid. And it's still beneficial for you, both physically and mentally, and soulfully. Two more breaths here. Then we slowly going to start coming out of the pose. Lift your head and place your hands on the mat. Moving slowly. You can tuck the right toes to bring the knee forward, the hips forward. Moving the left leg back. And we're gonna enter downward facing dog once more. Maybe walk the dog. Or if you want, you can reach the left leg up, bending the knee, creating some circles, changing direction. And placing the foot back onto the ground. Release the knees down onto the mat. And we're gonna lay down for our final pose. So lay down onto your back just like in Shavasana. Take your feet together. Your arms are along the body. Then walking your feet to the left, bring them close. And walking your upper body to the left. So the hip stays where they were. And avoid lifting the right hip off of the ground. Now you might want to lengthen your arms overhead. Either grab onto your elbows or with your left hand grab onto the right wrist and give it a gentle pull to open up the right ribs a bit more. If you want something more, you can even put the right ankle on top of the left ankle. Then you want to relax completely into the pose. You might even want to close your eyes. And as you inhale, direct your inhales to the right ribs. Really fill your right lung with air every time you inhale. If you cross your ankles, you can start to remove the right foot from the left one. Bring your arms along the body. Move really slowly again. And turn or walk the upper back to center. And then start to walk the feet little by little all the way to the right side. Bring them close together. And then walk the upper body to the right. Keep your hips where they are. And the left hip grounded. And then maybe reaching the arms overhead. Choose your variation. Grabbing onto the elbows or the left wrist. Give it a gentle pull, but then you can relax again. Maybe crossing the left ankle on top of the right one. I remember the first time I did this pose in Yin teacher training. It was mesmerizing how much the breath could do from the inside. You can start to remove the left ankle from the right one, releasing the grip of your elbows or hands, bringing the arms along the body, then walking the upper back to center. After that, you can walk your legs back to center, maybe bending them for a moment. Gonna bring our knees to the chest. Give yourself a hug. So arms around your shins, your knees, maybe rolling gently from side to side, massaging your back. And then come back to center and find whatever variation of Shavasana you prefer. Either extend your legs or keep them bent, distancing the feet and connecting the knees. In that case, you might want to lift the pelvis, moving the tailbone down towards the feet and pressing the head down onto the ground as you slide the shoulder blades down. Turn your palms up towards the ceiling. Close your eyes. Let go of everything. Come back to a completely natural breath through your nose. Stay present in your body with your breath. But there's no need of concentrating too much. But whenever you notice that your mind is drifting, you might want to bring it back. Then I'd like you to start asking yourself in second person, for whom or what are you grateful for in this moment? For whom or what are you grateful for in this moment? Avoid seeking for the answers. Let them come by themselves. Some days there will be a lot of things popping up. Other days it might be hard to find something. Either way, it's fine. So continuing to ask yourself the question, for whom or what are you grateful for in this moment? And how does it feel to be grateful? How does it feel in the area of your heart space? Open up your heart. Then let go of the question. Bring your mind back to the body. Notice the points where your body connects with the mat, with the earth. Maybe waking up the body gently by wiggling your toes or moving your fingers. In your own time, you can start to turn onto your right side. Keep your eyes closed if you can. Then using your left hand to push yourself up into a seated position. Bring your hands in Anjali Mudra, so connecting the palms in front of your heart. And in this place of gratitude, you might want to set an intention. The feeling of gratitude is the feeling of receiving. It's like opening a door. Bring your emotions into your intention. Feel it as it's already happened. It's already yours. Believe in it. Let everything else go. I bow to you and thank you for joining me on the mat today. Namaste.